What is up, 8th grade? Hope you guys had a fabulous weekend and you guys got outside yesterday. What a beautiful day. Happy Monday. Your word today is ruminate. Super easy. You got this. Hit pause. All right, my friends, we got the word ruminate. We got the word ruminated, which tells us this must be a verb. Very good. And let's see if we can figure it out. Larry didn't have to ruminate about taking this guy as a roommate. He didn't have to think, maybe? Let's plug that into another sentence and see if it makes sense. Because she had made up her mind, Nancy did not need time to think when Pete asked her to marry him. That makes sense. And that's exactly what ruminate means. It's to think or to ponder or to puzzle about or to reflect. So to ruminate means to think over. Very good. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to quiz yourself. All right? I've got a thesis statement. Ponyboy and Cherry are foil characters. Okay. So if we're arguing that Ponyboy and Cherry are foil characters, what would be the counter argument? Hit pause and try to supply it on your own. Okay. Is the counter argument what we are arguing? No. It's what the haters will say. So we always start with some will say. This is what other people are saying. And then we're going to say the opposite. Ponyboy and Cherry are foil characters? No. Pony and Cherry are not foil characters. The last thing we need is the reason. Why? Why aren't they foil characters? Seems like they're pretty similar, right? They both see the sunsets. Seems like they have a key difference. One lives on the east side, one's on the west side. One's got more money. One, his family struggles to make ends meet. Seems like they might be foil characters. I don't know. Anywho, let's move on. So today I want to start with talking about the Rumble. So if we go back to last meeting, Ponyboy talks to Randy, and Randy says that fighting is useless. And Ponyboy leaves the conversation and he realizes that the Socias are just dudes. They're just regular people. He's a human. He's not a Soch, he says to Two-Bit. He's just a guy. Okay, so he leaves that conversation and he realizes the Socias aren't that different. He goes and talks to Cherry and he agrees with her that sunsets are the same on the east and the west. So again, we got a lot in common. So then why does he fight? Ponyboy even says, why do I fight? I thought and couldn't think of any real good reason. There isn't any real good reason for fighting except self-defense. Ponyboy says there is no good reason to fight except for self-defense. And yet, there he is at the Rumble. He goes and fights. He realizes the Socias are not that different. He knows that fighting won't accomplish anything. And he knows that it's wrong to fight unless you're protecting yourself. So why go to the Rumble? This isn't self-defense. You don't have to go there. Why would he do that? Very strange. Very, very strange. Today, I want to talk about Paul. Paul's over there like, what did I do? Just kidding, Paul. Not you. We're talking about this Paul. Paul Holden. Very interesting. You might not even remember the name Paul. Do you know why? Because Paul Holden only shows up for 2 pages. A total of like 8 paragraphs in this entire book. So is he important? I think he is, and I want to talk about it. You and I are going to alternate reading paragraphs. So I'm going to read a whole paragraph. I'm going to wait for a while, and I want you to read out loud, all right? And our purpose is, why does S.E. Hinton introduce us to Paul? Why do we learn about this Paul guy? Why don't we have just some random no-name Soch? All right? So, Derry and Paul, they're at the Rumble. Derry walks out in front and he says, I'll take anyone, right? He's going to start the fight. And Paul walks up and they look at each other, all right? Why Paul? All right, so I'm going to read. Why don't you go first and I'll read second, okay? So you're up. Ready? Go. I heard Soda give a kind of squeak, and I realized that the blonde was Paul Holden. He had been the best halfback on Derry's football team at high school, and he and Derry, they used to buddy it around all the time. He must be a junior in college by now, I thought. He was looking at Derry with an expression I couldn't quite place, but disliked. Contempt? Pity? Hate? All three? Why? Because Derry was standing there representing all of us? Maybe Paul felt only contempt and pity and hate for greasers? That's stupid, I thought swiftly. They've both come here to fight, and they're both supposed to be smarter than that. What difference does this side make? The silence grew heavier, and I could hear the harsh, heavy breathing of the boys around me. Still, Derry and the Soch walked slowly in a circle. They used to be buddies, I thought. They used to be friends. And now they hate each other because one has to work for a living and the other comes from the west side. They shouldn't hate each other. I don't hate the Soches anymore. They shouldn't hate. And then in runs Dally, and they fight. The fight breaks out. And Ponyboy fights in the fight, even though he just said, I don't hate the Soches anymore. They shouldn't hate each other. Why does Ponyboy fight? Maybe he's just caught up in the moment? My friends, this is one of the reasons why we don't put ourselves in bad situations, right? Like Ponyboy realizes, I should not be here. We shouldn't be fighting. I don't hate them. But then he gets dragged into it, right? You got to remove the temptation from yourself. Paul is only in the book for about a page and a half. He will never show up again in the book. And yet, Paul is given this whole backstory. Why? Why would they do that? I mean, if you think about it, why don't we just have some random Soch go up? A Soch that Ponyboy doesn't know, right? Just like some random preppy rich kid, I guess. Why? Why this Paul character? What is Essie Hinton trying to do here? What's she trying to show? This is where I want to talk about foil characters. So I want to talk about how Paul and Derry are similar and different. Let's talk about their similarities first. So Paul and Derry, they both went to school together, right? So they're the same age. They played on the same football team, went to the same school, and they used to be friends, right? They're both very similar, right? But how are they different? What are some of their differences? Derry's obviously a greaser. Paul's a Soch, right? I think one of the big differences is Derry has a job. Even though Derry and Paul are the same age, Paul's in college. Derry should be in college. Derry had good grades. Why isn't Derry in college? Why didn't he get to go? He didn't get to go to college because he had to drop out of school in order to take care of his brothers. He needed to get a job in order to take care of his brothers right now. He couldn't wait. He couldn't go to college and get the job of his dreams, right? He just had to drop out of school and get a roofing job, which is a good job. I mean, Jerry works really hard, but it doesn't pay a ton. It's really, really hard work. Can you imagine having to carry shingles? Shingles are really heavy. Up a ladder, onto a roof. It's really hot on top of roofs because the shingles are black and it absorbs the heat of the sun. Like, it's a hard job. And it tells us that Derry might be jealous of Paul, right? What's he jealous of? Maybe he's jealous that Paul got to go to college, right? It seems like one of the big differences is money. Money is one of the things that separates them. So let me ask you this again. Why do we have Paul? What does Paul do in this book? What does he highlight about Derry? Because that's what a foil character is all about. We have these two characters that are very similar, and this difference, the way that Paul is different, is telling us something about the more important character. Derry is a much more important character, right? Obviously, we only hear about Paul on one page. Why do we have Paul? What is Paul showing us? Maybe Paul is what Derry could have been, right? If Derry's mom and dad don't die in that car crash, if he doesn't have to drop out of school, he'd be in college right now, right? And maybe Derry would be able to save up enough money that he'd be a Soch living on the other side of town, basically, right? But it's not. Things didn't work out that way. He had to drop out of school to take care of his brothers. All right, my friends, I want to talk to you about your homework. Your homework for Wednesday is to finish reading the book, chapter 10, 11, and 12. You have no written homework, okay? I don't want you guys stressing and having to stare at a computer screen or typing anything out. I just want you to finish reading the book and enjoy, okay? It might rain, so I don't know. If it's not raining, maybe read outside. With your parents' permission, of course. But anywho, enjoy the book, finish it. If you have any assignments that are missing, turn those in. All right? Okay. And yeah, I love you guys. I hope you guys are doing well. I miss you. But I'm very proud of you guys for working so hard. Keep it up. All right?